everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yecca, where we cover culture, conspiracy, carnivore, and Christ consciousness. Today, I am chatting with my friend Matt Grebosky about all things health and happiness. Matt is a sunlight, meat, and health enthusiast, making him a perfect guest for this show. He works for Tail and Sapien Center, plays hockey, teaches movement mobility classes, and runs the Evolution and Integration podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited for this episode.
Yeah, so am I. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm excited we finally got to do it. And first off, I just love the intro video.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's so cool, especially like the little cat on a laptop. It was just like every video just like suited your personality perfectly. I loved it.
Thank you. It took me some time to put that together, and I love it so much. Every time I watch it, I'm reminded of how awesome that is. So
yeah, I don't know if you could see me. I was like dancing the entire time.
Yeah, and that song, it's actually a new song. You can thank AI for that song. I had them generate me a little intro song. So I want to let the people know that are watching. So I see Matt as part of this awesome young generation making big moves to truly make a better society in our future. There really seems to be this wave of younger peeps starting their own businesses, focusing on ancestral nutrition and health. And I think that's so amazing. I know I was not living that way in my 20s for sure. So I want to say thank you for setting yourselves apart. I just love seeing that. So I really want to talk about a lot of things, but a few things I want to specifically focus on: men's mental health. Last month was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which I just wanted to keep the awareness going because I just feel like it's something that's not talked about enough. So I just want to get into that a little bit. And I want to start out. I know that you're big into hanging out and communing with men, like on your hockey team at the Sapien Center, etc. Before you moved to Austin, was that always the case with your friend circle?
Can you be a little bit more specific? Like, was I always engaged in like, I guess I'll just answer it this way. I don't think I ever had such a large community surrounding me. I think that's one of like the things that, so I moved to Austin, like the middle of 2022. Before that, I was living in Charleston, South Carolina. And I definitely didn't have like a massive community there. And I had a few friends that were like deep connections. So I got that like kind of men's connection through these like deeper connections with guys. But here in Austin, like there is just a bounty of people. I mean, like I'm in a few sand volleyball chats, and I was just looking at today, and there's like 3 different games going on today, and there's like 180 people in this chat. And the reason I bring that up is I know it's like tons of people, and like someone will post it, and let's say there's like a 25 person cap, it'll literally fill up in like 3 or 4 minutes. And I bring that up because, of this question, and it hasn't always been like that. And I understand that not everyone can live in Austin, Texas, where I think is just like this hub of like free, cheap, fun entertainment and community. And cheap in the sense of like actual monetary value. And I think you kind of have to build that yourself. You have to be like engaged and be a part of it and build it. So it hasn't always been like that. And, I really enjoy my ice hockey teams. Like, I know you brought that up several times, and I've played ice hockey since I was like 5 years old. I've never stopped. So I've been in adult leagues in Georgia, Charleston, and here in Austin. And I will say, like, my hockey friends aren't my closest friends, but I do really, really value my relationship with them. I essentially like go to war with them every Monday night together. And it feels like it. It's like something very primal. I'm happy to like go into more like why I think that's important for men, but it hasn't always been like that. It's something that I have had to work on and like actively engage with. And what's actually kind of funny is I'm actually having this interesting problem of I have too many friendships now. And so they're like almost diluted a little bit. So I really have to like focus on the people that I'm trying to engage with. Like there's someone right now who's in my community that's like a really high performer, and I want to be better friends with him. But it's hard sometimes. Like he doesn't engage in the activities that I'm doing where I would see him constantly. So now it's like, okay, I have to go out of my way to make friendships with him. And that might seem like weird to some people. I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but that's where I'm at. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a really, really cool thing that you're doing, because we are made up of the 5 people that we're closest to around us. And I can see how, if you have 500 friends, how it can be, the friendships can be really diluted, and you're trying to spend your time with all these different people at all, any time. So I think that's really cool, that you're trying to seek out and work towards that friendship who, is really successful because you want to be more successful, and you're the type of person that you talk about health and happiness all the time, and it's on your Instagram and all that stuff. So I think that's really cool. And so yeah, and I do want to kind of get into and get your thoughts on what you think, how important do you think it is for men to have that sort of like brotherly interaction or primal experience with other men? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of twofold. So I think, the way I'll explain this is my thoughts on it. They're two different things. There's like health benefits of it, like purely like hormonal, biological, physiological benefits to that. And then there's like the mental health side to it. So in terms of like of physical health, I think there's just something very different about a traditional like exercise program where you're like lifting weights. I engage in that. I do, rows, bench press, squats, lunges, all the things. And that's very beneficial. But I think that there's something innately different around that and maybe like a martial art like jujitsu or wrestling. And I like to make that distinction because it's like you kind of like always have control of this situation. You're not like pushing against something that isn't moving. If someone's like, uh, if you've ever done, for instance, I did this competition where there was tug of war and I did it twice. And I was so sore from just two bouts of tug of war because it's this like, it's not like an exercise like you're used to where you're pulling something and the weight. So the weight moves kind of exactly how you want it to. Exactly how it's moving in your hand. Whereas like when someone's trying to like strangle you or someone's trying to pull you over this line or this cliff and you are just like constantly isometrically pulling against something, I think that there's just a different kind of physiological response, especially for men, to like kind of like work with their environment and move their body in different ways. And exercising is great, but I think inherently there's a difference between like that and like pushing up against someone or like sprinting really hard. Like I tell my guys on my hockey team, I'm like, hockey is such a high T sport because you sprint like 20 times a game. You're battling against people. It's very like interval based, right? Because you go out and you sprint for 90 seconds and then you take like a 90-second break. And then you sprint for 90 seconds and you take a 90-second break. So it's like these intervals and it's full body, you're using all your different motor skills. So that's just like the health benefits of like a physical sport. And I differentiate that from like, let's just say like tennis. Like I love tennis, nothing against it. And even like beach volleyball that I love, played all the time. I think there's something a little different when you're actually like battling against someone and you're like kind of like jousting against them and you're pushing them back and forth. And, there's the risk of like injury because of someone else running into you and something like that. And then there's just all the mental benefits of, something that I'll bring up is I had another team here in Austin. So I was playing on 2 different teams. And the one team had tons of splits, meaning there would be 2 people that would split one spot. So they would switch back and forth. So one week would be my week, then the next week would be the next guy's week. So what ended up happening is I would play with tons of different people, tons of different random assortments of all these like 20 people to form 10 guys. And that made it very inconsistent. And I realized that I really didn't like that because I'd get people that maybe I didn't know, or it would just be a whole different assortment. Whereas my other team, it's the same people every week. And I really enjoy like showing back up. And even though, it's not like this really deep, immense connection where I'm not hanging out with them a ton. Actually, we just won the championship. So we're having a party tomorrow.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so we're having a big get together tomorrow, which we don't do a lot of. We're all busy. We're all kind of, but we see each other every week. So it's like, hey, like, I see these guys. I don't need to see them outside of it. I'm guaranteed to see them every Monday. But there's definitely like a mental benefit of like, hey, we're going to war again. Like, good to see you again, lad. Like, let's go.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. So how have you let's see, how have you seen that make a difference in your life as far as mental health goes? Like since you have been, having more of these experience with groups of men
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah. I think at least for me, I've seen it really like enhance my leadership skills. I tend to be like the leader of a group, or I tend to like naturally fit into that, because I don't shy away from having like controversial conversations. I don't mind like being the dude who put as everyone vote on this right now so that like we can figure this out. Like when volleyball, like sometimes we do it random, sometimes we do it skill based. So the best people can play together and then the worst people can play together. And then random is everyone plays with everyone. And then like I'm show up to thing and no one really knows. I'm like, everyone vote right now. Put up your hand if you want to play on skill based, right? And then like no one wants to say the quiet part out loud. If you like ask everyone, like everyone's like, oh no. But if you just ask everyone to raise their hand, like 80% of people want to play skill based. And it's like, okay, there we go. We're gonna play skill based then. You know? Um, and then like back to your question, how do you think it's affected me, or how has it affected me? Um, yeah, I think I've learned to like deal with confrontation a little bit more, specifically in sport, because ice hockey is this weird sport where it's very physical, and we all pay a lot of money to play, and we kind of depend on these two random referees who we know. They're not always the same, but we know generally the guys. Um, and we depend on them to be the kings of the thing, right? They tell you what is allowed and what is not allowed, right? Someone comes up to you out of the blue, slashes you on the wrist. It's like, hey, you need to get penalized for that. And sometimes they're not always great at that. And sometimes there's people that like to take advantage and try to hurt other people. And I've learned to just, I've learned that a lot of people just aren't great at communicating. And it's really a very interesting, funny thing when you just like talk to someone and they like try, and just I'm like, hey man, can you please stop doing that? Like, I'm not trying to get hurt. I've never done it to you. Can you please stop trying to hurt me? I'm like, hey man, it's cool. Just like stop doing it, please. And they're like, wow, that was nice. Thanks. I'll try.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. I think a lot of people have trouble giving themselves structure, and so whenever somebody gives them structure or like tells them, "Hey, don't do that," like it's like, oh, like it hurts your feelings for a second, but then you're like, "Wait, okay, I like that. Okay, I can do that."
Yeah, and especially like we're usually all ramped up. Like I'm just thinking very specifically hockey here, but like, we're all ramped up, and like not a lot of people, I think a lot of, Yecca, I think you're a good communicator too, and probably a lot of our listeners tend to like work on themselves and think about improving their communication skills. And I think when you experience someone who communicates effectively and communicates whether it's their emotions to you or their feelings or their wants and their needs, and it sounds like kind of sappy, but like this dude, very specifically, this dude like kind of like hit me from behind. I didn't have the puck. It was cheap. It hurt. I was like, hey man, can you please stop doing that? It hurts. And I never do this to you. So I would appreciate some like respect and not doing it to me. And he's like, like, I didn't mean to. And like, you need to stop being such a bitch. And I was just like, hey man, like I have a really hurt leg, and like I understand you might not have meant to do it, but you've done it to me before, and I would just
Mhm.
really appreciate if you could not do that, because I'm not trying to get hurt and I never try to hurt you either. And he was like, okay, you're right. Yeah, thanks for saying that. And you know what I mean? And it's like you kind of the switch goes off. It's like, monkey brain. And it's like, okay, wait, he's just a human trying to talk to me. He's just like me, I would be upset too if he tried to hurt me. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm not like trying to attack anybody, but I think that also is, a lot of has to do with how kind of the sexes are like more men are more feminine nowadays and women are more masculine nowadays. And so when someone like a man like you is a little masculine and trying to put some boundaries down and some like assertiveness, these sensitive men will get upset, but it's like, but he wants to be masculine, he wants to be a man, so he, once you said it again, he like respects you, and it's just like clicks different. It's like, oh wait, this is okay for him to set a boundary. It's okay for him to tell me not to hit him, even though, I understand you're in the game, it's hockey, or it's all crazy and all that stuff, but like you said, he did it before. It wasn't like the first time he did it. So, once you like made that clear to him, then he's like, oh, okay, that's okay. I get it now.
Yeah, you didn't think we were gonna get into life coaching in the middle of my hockey game today in our chat, did you?
I did
Maybe.
actually. I don't know if anybody else did, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's all relevant, everything, and that is why I brought it up too, because I didn't know you played hockey since you were a kid, but I know that you post about it a lot,
Mhm.
and I know, to me, I know that it's important for men to commune with other men. Even if you just have one guy friend that you talk to, I'm not saying like every guy needs to go be on some kind of sports team, or go play volleyball with a bunch of dudes. Like, I don't think every man, has the time for that, and or wants to do that. But I do think that it's important for men to have relationships with other men.
Yeah, I agree. I'll push back on you a little bit there, Yeka. I think it actually is really important for guys to play sports with each other, and I think the reason I bring that up is there is something innate in men's physiology where it's like struggle with other men towards a desired goal, and also like be respectable in that. And the reason I bring that up is like you have to kind of pull all your own weight in terms of the teams. And I think you learn a lot about yourself when you realize where your shortcomings are in terms of that. And also I think like it brings out a part of you that maybe you don't see in other aspects. Like for instance, my role on the team is I like to call myself the culture captain, because I like to keep people in like high and communicating well and like happy and like having fun. But I also like I work really, 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 really hard. Like that's the one thing but a coach said this, like you can control the controllables. And it's like if I can just work as hard as I can and win my own battles, it will inspire other people to do better. And something an old teammate of mine, he's on this team, but he doesn't play with us anymore. A few months after I joined, he was like, he kind of came up to me like afterwards. He's like, "Hey man, I just want to say like thank you. Like ever since you joined our team, like our locker room, our like pre-locker room chat has been like very like higher energy." And he's like, and we all work harder on the ice because of it. And I was like, "Huh, why do you think that's me?" He's like, "Dude, we haven't like had a new teammate in like a few months, and it was literally right after you started joining because I got on the team and they call me like a pit bull or something out there. Like I just go for every puck. I'm like running around all the place, and it's controlled. I'm not running around in a bad sense, but like I kind of just was like upping the ante, and it's like, hey, I'm willing to like die for this puck. Like I want it so bad. I want it more than anyone else does, and everyone else is like, if he's gonna work that hard, then maybe I can work just like a little bit harder in today's game. And then it carries over and we get better and we get better and we get better. And now we're winning the championship and we're a really good team because we're just grinders. Like we just go out there and we just, like I say, just win your battles. That's all you need to do is just win your battles. And I think to get back to like your point in my, I don't know, juxtaposition to it, I think that there's something really powerful about like men kind of holding each other accountable to that because you kind of like you get in this high stress situation and it's you can kind of compare this to women where uh, please don't take this in the bad sense, but like well men test each other in like tough situations, and it's why like men joke around with each other. And if a guy in your group can't take a joke, it's like, come on man, like it's a joke, and like don't be butthurt. And if it goes too far, it's like, hey, yeah, I can swear on here, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, it's like, hey, like someone says like, Matt, like like, oh, you're being such a little bitch. I'm like, Johnny, shut the fuck up. Like, you know what I mean? And then if it needs to go down, it goes down right then and there. Otherwise, like, when everyone eyes it, so I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Johnny's like, you're right. That was I was just kidding. Sorry, Matt. And it's like, okay, cool, cool. And so I think it is important because it's like you kind of see stress comes up, the game gets intense, like this guy freaks out and like loses his cool. It's like, oh, like Johnny can't control himself, And it's like, fuck, man. Like I just embarrassed myself. And like maybe I overthink things and like, but I think it actually is very good because you test yourself with these other guys. And if you're a sociopath or you have these like negative qualities of your personality, maybe you don't get along with each other, maybe like you have emotional breakouts, like you'll get called out. And then if they call you out enough and you don't listen, you're gone from the team. And guess what, if you like join a team and they kick you off, okay, maybe it's just one and done. But if you join another team and they kick you off too, it's like, you got some shit to work on. And I think that's actually really important. I think that's how like our ancestral lineage, how our evolution, at least for men, like in little tribes, you got to pull your own weight. You got to make sure that you're, communicating well. You got to make sure that you're pulling your weight towards that desired goal and helping everyone else and keeping spirits up, and you play your role well. So I think it's actually really important. And I think a lot of men would see a lot of benefit to just devoting, once a week, once every other week, a little bit of time to that.
Cool. No, first of all, I love pushback. I don't ever want anybody to agree with me 100%
I know.
on anything. I was actually thinking about this earlier, like you don't want to agree with anybody 100% because then you have no room for your own ideas.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love the pushback because it also makes my mind think like in different ways. And, now that you've said that, I agree. It does make sense. Yeah, I'm in. It does make sense. And I think, it is a good way to keep men challenging their minds. A lot of men nowadays have become comfortable and soft and like I said, more feminine. I'm not saying that, about your hockey team. I'm just saying general, we are in that circle of weak times, or weak men create hard times, where that's the part that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's why I really wanted to have you come on too, because like I said earlier in the show, like I see you as part of this, like the young generation, and like making these changes, the strong men trying to make the better times, and putting yourself in those kind of challenging situations, especially in a group of other men, that, it seems like you have a pretty good team that, you don't have a shitty person on your team that isn't going to be accountable for their actions if you call them out. So I think it is a really good way to put yourself in a group of other men that are trying to be better, that are trying to do good. And so, and I think that's really great too, that your teammates see you, trying to do your best. And I think that's what makes a really good leader, is like, you're not out there bossing everybody, telling everybody what to do. You're out there doing it. And, and they see you do it. And, men have this kind of like, what's the word? Like competitive side. It's like, oh, he's working his ass off. Like, what am I doing over here? Like, I need to put in a little bit more work. So, yeah, I think that's really cool, and that's definitely a really good point. So, I think I agree now.
Yeah.
So this one's kind of a general question. What are some key points that you would recommend people to just live a happy and healthy life?
Ooh, okay, good one. I personally, I think I was just drafting up a pitch to essentially run someone's Twitter, a pretty famous Twitter person's account, which I finished today. So that was really cool. And this was in it. I had essentially like for the pitch, I put like all of my hot takes, because I'm like running their Twitter account and it's like a person's brand. So I'm like, hey, these are actually all the things I believe. So like, let me know if you like where we differ on this. That way I make sure that like I don't put that into your tweets or things like that. And one of the things, and I realized this a while ago, and it kind of goes to something I mentioned earlier, but like, I think one of the biggest things is just finding community of like-minded individuals. And, you don't want to get, like you kind of said, Yecca, it's like, you don't want to get too like-minded, right? But like, you want to just find a group of people that do healthy things, do things that you enjoy, and want to see you succeed and are willing to challenge you for that. And I think science shows that like long-term healthy relationships are probably one of the best indicators for like long-term health. So just having those. And so I think that's really important. That's a simple tip. And I know it's not that easy. It's kind of like a very long-term thing, but the hardest things are usually the best. And they usually take like overtime and consistency and following up with people. And I just always say this in term, let's say you have this thought, it's like, oh, I want to really connect with one of my good friends, Paul. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen him in a while. I haven't talked to them. Well, it doesn't need to happen now. And then a month goes by and you have the same thought. And then another month goes by and you have the same thought. Then a year goes by and you have the same thought. And like just connecting him with like once every 3 months for like a 10-minute call, you'd be shocked at how much that can keep your friendship going. So then when you do see each other, you like, oh man, like it's good to see you. Like we've been talking, and now we get to see each other. Look, this is awesome, right? It's not like, oh, I haven't talked with you in 2 years and now I see you. It's a little awkward. So that would be a tip. Another one would be, here's one that I've been working on recently, is eating outside. So there was this interesting study where essentially people were eating inside in blue light enriched environments or outdoor environments. And they have a much healthier response to the food if they eat outside.
Mm.
So just eating outside, and I know you can't always do it, but it allows for better responses to food, whether that's glucose sensitivity and cortisol, whatever, things like that.
I'm gonna try that immediately, starting today.
Yeah, just go outside, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's less stressful. I know we live in Texas, so it's a little bit hotter outside, so it's kind of hard sometimes, but you can deal with it for 20, 30 minutes. I was
Oh
in
yeah,
Las Vegas
I
when I
love
did
the
it
sun.
too.
It's an excuse to sit out in the sun, so I'm all
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I was in Las Vegas for this Freedom Festival, helping out the Daylight Computer Company, and we were in Las
Oh yeah.
Vegas, and we would go outside at like 9 in the morning, and it was like 110 degrees by then, and it was just like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. But that's in the desert somewhere. So
Right, yeah. Yeah, you're literally cooking out there.
yeah, seriously. And let me think, one more. I think eating every meal with red meat. No, I'm kidding. I think grounding. I'm just learning. I think grounding is a lot more important than people think, and just engaging in like a simple grounding practice every day. Whether it's literally just like some days, I have this nice, beautiful front yard. Some days I don't want to do it. I'll just walk outside for like 2 minutes and just go out, put my feet in the ground, look at the sun, look at all the things around me, get my eyesight. Like also an interesting thing you can do there is like engage your eyesight in something that's far away. I think that's actually another health hack, simple health hack. And people don't realize this, but like when you're inside, there's inherently only like a large, you're kind of limited in the distance that you can focus your eyes on. And there's a lot of studies that show because we're so near focused, like everything is so close to us, that our eyes are actually stressing, because when they're closer than 20 feet, our eyes have to stress to kind of focus on it. So just go outside, look at some things that are actually far away, kind of like wake up your eyes in that sense, and it'll be light out. So you're waking up to the sunlight and those infrared, good light things. So those are a few tips from me.
Cool. Yeah, that I think that's actually an eye strengthening exercise, is
Yep.
to try to focus on something. There's a few of them, but yeah, trying to focus on something far away. If you can't see it that first day, if you keep at it, you will eventually be able to see it.
Yeah.
And then also trying to look at things out of your peripheral. Like I'm looking at the screen right now, but I can see the things that are on my left and right. And
Mm.
that's also another eye exercise. I used to do those a lot, but since I've been slacking, my vision is not as good as it used to be. So
Mm.
I'll probably add that to my morning routine when I go grounding outside. But going back to eating red meat with every meal, I do think that is something that should be on that list. I think diet plays a huge role in our mental health and happiness, because if you're eating garbage all the time, there is not a single thing you can do to be happy all the time and healthy all the time.
True.
Um, so I did want to ask, like, have you always been into eating healthy foods, whether it looked completely different before than it does now, or did you just kind of eat like standard American diet growing up?
Oh yeah, standard American diet, like total, not total. I Yeah, I ate garbage growing up. Like it was bad. Ho hos, like Lunchables, Hamburger Helper, ham and cheese
I loved Hamburger
sandwiches.
Helper.
Oh, Hamburger Helper was, you know, it's not the worst. It's not the worst. It's pretty meat based. You know, it was always like beef stroganoff or something like that.
Right.
Not, you know, it's not the best, but it's better than just like buttered pasta. You know, um, and like who would ever eat that? Yeah, my family would sometimes.
No, we would
um,
eat that too all the time. We would do the bow tie pasta. I don't think we even used butter. I think we used country crock.
Oh, yeah, same. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
You should I mean, like, you should see my mom still loves that stuff, and I have to, like,
Mm,
convince her otherwise. I know, it's crazy. But,
yeah.
no, so I was not always into that, you know, it really just depends on what your parents eat. It's so interesting, like, my mom it's just so fascinating how much your own propensity to like foods like, my mom hates tomatoes. No one in my family likes tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just interesting, and I think that happens a lot more than we think, and it makes sense, but, no, so I grew up pretty, like, crappy diets, eating a lot of fast food, and then it kinda shifted when I started working out and taking, um I think there's this, like, natural progression through health, and I think it happens a little bit more strict with men, but I think it happens with women too, is, like, you start working out and all you start doing is just like exercise. And then you realize that it's not even exercise that gets you what you truly want, it's nutrition. So then you get into nutrition. And then you realize that nutrition and working out is more of like a consistency thing and a habit thing. And then you're not like reaching your goals in there. So then you start reading personal development books and you get into like habits and like, you know, that's type of discipline stuff. And then once you realize that doesn't have all the answers, then you start getting into like spirituality, like new age spirituality books. And then once you realize that like their answers aren't in there, then you get back to like the old spiritual doctrines and the old books and things like that. And then after that, I don't know where you go. Maybe you start a podcast or something like that. But it's something like that. And so I started paying more attention when I just got into working out in high school and just caring how I looked and how my athletic performance um kind of started. I always was working out and I had really good coaches, but I just fascinating thing that happened to me my senior year, we started a rugby team and it was like towards the end of the school year. It's like halfway through the school year, my senior year, we were a really big football school. And so a lot of these senior guys are like, oh, finally, I've worked for the past 4 years on sports. Like finally I'm done. And then we started a rugby team and no one knew how to play, but I really wanted to be on the top, the starting line. So I started going to the 5 a.m. morning workouts. And it was funny because I was like one of the only seniors because, right, all of the seniors had done this every year. So they were just sick and tired of it. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm like one of the only seniors showing up to this football workout. And like, I'm kind of like I'm like the outside person because everyone's a football guy and I wasn't a football guy. So, and then once I started doing that, I started paying attention to nutrition and then I started eating better. And I remember in college, like, I still wasn't eating great. Thank God I never did the vegan thing. I never did like the plant-based thing. It just never even phased me. I was like, this is just dumb ideas. I just don't even remember thinking about it. I've never done it, never wanted to do it. So it's just not in my repertoire. And then college, I just started making healthier food. And then I became, I studied anatomy, neurophysiology. I studied nutrition, which the nutrition class I took at Penn State, which is absolute garbage too. It was like awful. It was ridiculous. Um, and then I got into like holistic lifestyle and exercise coaching, and then it's kind of been from there. And the long story, long story, just one thing I always practice is people always think I'm like this super strict person. I'm in pretty good shape and I have a lot of muscle on me. And it's just been consistent. It's been like 80-20 consistency, even 70-30, meaning like 70% of the time I'm on some type of healthy whole foods diet. And the other 30% I eat P-Terries and I eat, ice cream sometimes and things like that. But like long term, I've been 70-30, and that's kind of the name of the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're metabolically healthy overall, you don't have any autoimmune issues or any other like diseases like diabetes or, arthritis, skin diseases, things like that. If you're just overall healthy person, you don't have any issues like that. I think that is a perfect way to start 70-30 or 80-20, and like you said, like the 30% or 20% that you eat, it's not total garbage. Like P. Terry's is the only fast food restaurant I'll go to because I trust the meat there. I know that it's real meat. I don't trust, like KFC has signed a contract with the lab made chicken, and so I don't
Yeah.
trust meat from any place other than P. Terry's.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
you were
use
the
what?
person who made me start eating P. Terry's. Do you remember that? Do
Oh
you remember
yeah.
when I told you that? I was I remember because I lived near P. Terry's when I first moved here, and I just never went there. I was like, "Oh, this is fast food. I don't want to go there." And then like a few months in, you were like, "Oh no, I love P. Terry's. Like I trust the meat." We were in the same car where we were driving to float the river.
Oh
That's where
yeah,
it was.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember specifically, and you were like talking about P. Terry's, and I was like, because we passed it. I was like, "Oh, look, I live right here. I never go to P. Terry's." She's like, "I love P. Terry's." Then we got on this whole riff about it, and I was like, "Okay, I have permission to eat P. Terry's now."
My friends, they say this thing. They're like, "Oh, it's Yecca approved for like certain foods." Like they're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, if Yecca eats it, it's okay. I can eat it." Because I am strict. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, P. Terry's, I do trust them. Yeah, they use canola oil in their fryer, but the meat, as far as that goes, I do trust the meat. It feels and tastes like real meat and all that stuff. I won't even trust the other places. I just get the burger patties in a boat. Like I had to train. We got a P. Terry's out here in Bastrop, and I had to train them all on how to use what buttons to push to do just the solo burger patties in in a boat. Because sometimes I'll literally just get burger patties or burger patties with cheese, and that's it. So I had to
How
like
much does
train the
that cost you
Bastrop.
per burger patty? Do you know?
They're 222 each. I don't remember if that's with or without cheese. I know they did recently go up in their prices a little bit, but like if I'm getting a whole meal and I'm hungry, I'm gonna get four burger patties with cheese, and that's less
Yeah,
than $10.
yeah, and
So like
it's
for
not a
not
big
having
deal.
to cook, less than $10, I'm in.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I
yeah,
do it
yeah.
too much sometimes.
Yeah, and also I think surrounding yourself with people, this kind of goes back to the community thing, but my two roommates, Jake and Johnny, are actually very strict. And I agree with you completely in your response to my point around 70-30. Like I have a very robust stomach. I don't have much autoimmune. I don't have much sensitivity to things. I can eat whatever I want, and I get direct feedback, and I know what things I shouldn't eat, right? And I have that type of connection. But generally, I can I'm a 28-year-old guy who like works out every single day and is very active, so I can burn off that sort of stuff. Um, so take that with a grain of salt. I like my roommate Johnny, he can't eat any gluten and he's very strict with all this stuff. And my friend and my roommate Jake, like he's a little bit more on the lenient side, but he still eats very healthy. So back to that community, surrounding yourself with people, that's the biggest health hack. Is like I'm just surrounded by people who eat healthy. So it's like, hey, do you guys want to go get food? It's like normally not Pizzeria. It's like let's go get picnic or let's go get like fresas. And it's just generally we tend to make healthier decisions.
Yeah, like even when you're going out to eat, there are, especially if you live in a place like Austin, there are so many other places. There are a few restaurants there that don't use seed oils, and so things like that. I think that is really important, especially if you're around people like that. But like for me, I think I do have autoimmune issues, so that's why I have to be strict. Like I can't
Yeah.
even. I have to limit myself on chocolate and almonds and things that I love, but they don't love me, because it literally causes my body pain. And so, the 70-30 or 80-20 rule, it really still is dependent on your health. If you have arthritis, or if you have like debilitating joint pain, or if you have issues like with depression or diabetes, diabetes runs on both sides of your family. Like for me, I have diabetes on both sides of my family. So, the whole sugar thing, I'm really careful with. So, I'm not saying everybody should do 70-30. Definitely be aware of your health. If you feel like you're generally healthy, you don't really have too many issues, like maybe you're just tired, or you don't have stable energy, or anything like that, then try. Still think that's a really good place to start, and to try to figure out what works best for you, because everybody is different. Like everybody's at different ages, different stages, has different genes that run in their family, and and your different lifestyles. It all plays a big role in your health and how you should be eating. um, the next thing I want to talk about, well, I'll start off with, so I'm curious from your point of view, like, I know you live in Austin. I'm just curious how the dating scene is. for those around your age out there in Austin? Like, is everybody just trying to have fun? Are there people that do want to start a family, or are there people that want a God-centered marriage, or is everybody just trying to look for love and get it in any way that they can? What is it like out there? This is going to segue into something more crazy. So
yeah, down in Bastrop, I don't know what the dating scene's like down there, but here in Austin, that's a pretty this could be a long conversation, but let me see where. Well, I think it's just all about my roommates and I talk about this often, and I'm in a relationship right now, and I have been in a few relationships over the past couple years. My two roommates are single right now. We're looking for some nice bass boys. They got high standards though.
as they should.
Yes. No vaccines. We're
That's
actually
that's a
talking about
must.
how that we're actually just talking about how that there's actually there's a dating app I saw at the festival. It's called Unjected.
Unjected.
Yep.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been
I
a
met
member since the beginning. Yeah,
I
it's
met
not
all the
very good.
people. I
It's
know
not
it's
very
not.
good.
I can bet you it's not.
It's
I
like the
mean, come on.
worst.
Yeah, it's
Actually.
probably awful.
It's kind of the worst. Yeah.
Okay,
Sad,
good
but
to
yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in the dating scene, there's a lot of singles. There's a lot of things you can do. I think, Yecca, I think you're asking this question because you're almost looking for like, what are your thoughts? What are your tips on sort of like dating and things like that in like a large young city?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think you just need to make your intentions clear, and I think you need to understand what you're looking for. And, are you just looking to do like a friends with benefits? Are you not looking to pursue anyone? Are you trying to like focus solely on yourself? And when someone tries to pursue you, are you looking to just like set boundaries clear and say, hey, listen, like I feel your energy coming onto me. I just want to let you know, like, I'm not looking, it's not you. I'm just really trying to focus on myself, and I'm not trying to like send that out. And one of my roommates did that for a long time. And, there's a lot of benefits to that where like you're just completely shut out from it all. And that can obviously get detrimental to you if you're like completely shutting out. But I think there's obviously like, it's like celibacy. I think there's something powerful in that. Um, are you looking to date just to like test the boundaries of relationships? I think that's really important. I think you learn a lot about yourself and how you want to relate to your future wife or husband, if that's what you're looking for through relationships. So I think, if you're not looking for a wife or a husband right now, I still think it's important to date. Honestly, I think it's very valuable tools to, because you're essentially like negotiating with someone. Like, how do we go towards this desired goal? And I think getting clear on what that desired goal is very important. And then like, how do we negotiate that? Like we're trying to have a good relationship, and it's like, I want to do this, but I want to do this, and you want to do this, and I want to make this. And it's like, you kind of get into the nitty gritty, and then you get triggered, and your trauma responses come out, or you get anxious about things. And I think there's a lot of power to that. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that, Yecca?
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting, and I do think that's a good point. Like, dating is very, very good to do to learn what you want. Especially if you haven't dated for a while or haven't put yourself out there. I think it's, if it is something that you want and you feel like you're ready for, or ready to start looking for it, I think it's really important to meet people and see other people and interact with people, and see your compatibility. And it's a really great way to learn what you're looking for if you don't exactly know what you're looking for. If all you know is that you want to get married and have kids, like, well, what kind of person do you want to marry and have kids? So I think those are really good points. And so something kind of a little tied to the celibacy thing, I want to bring up. It's not exactly that, but I know it's something that you and I have talked about before that is kind of extreme. Will most likely make some of the listeners uncomfortable that are listening. And so,
Adrenochrome.
yes. So the babies. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to talk about NoFap. So I know I've seen it a little bit on some, some social media sites and our people on Instagram and stuff like that. I know I have a lot of male listeners and followers, so I think it's something really important to talk about. I see, influencers literally urging men to retain their load. Like the men talking about this that I've seen on social media, they're like very like intent with it, and they're like, don't do this, and they're like, I've seen them. They say it in order to achieve more focus, more energy, and like essentially more power. Could you share a little about that and like your experience when you practice that, like, and kind of like go into like the before and after, like how your energy and focus were before, and if it improved afterwards?
Yeah. Um, very simply put, I think it's beneficial. And it doesn't have to be months on end. I think for some guys, I think even like 2 days sounds crazy to some people. And for others, it's normal. It's like, what do you mean you can't control yourself for 2 days? I think there's a very large spectrum of that. I just think it's inherently a little bit tougher, when women hear this, they're like, what are you talking about? And I think it's just it's a little bit more difficult. I think we'll just call it what it is. Masturbation has a little bit more of a deeper grasp on men and our innate biological systems than it does for females. I think there's the physiological reason for that, where it's like the only way where we can produce offspring is by ejaculating. And for females, it's not really tied to that. So I think inherently there is these biological systems that are wired around that. So that's one point. Two, so first point was like, no matter what, I think you're going to benefit from it. And you can get all into the esoteric wisdom, but you inherently are putting your life force energy out there, and to retain that energy is going to be better. And also just if like the actual science of it all, like we go through these massive like neurological there's one chemical that we release. I can't remember the name of it right now. There's a chemical that releases whenever men orgasm and ejaculate, and it kind of like tunes your whole body down a little, like your testosterone and all of your very masculine responses. And I'm trying to kind of drawing a blank on why that inherently happens, but it's just what happens. And if you're doing that 2 times a day, you're going to be massively lower in energy levels than you would be otherwise. So that's the benefit part of it. I think also kind of tied to it that inherently men understand, but maybe women. I'm not trying to juxtapose this to women, but I think inherently men understand this differently than women. So when I say a point around this to men, they're like, I understand all this backlog of information that Matt's working off of, and women might make some assumptions around that maybe don't click or make sense. And that is like, if you are not ejaculating, then you are not watching porn. Very, 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 very rarely is a guy going to watch porn and not get off. And I don't think that's necessarily different than women, but again, there's this like women almost gain energy from orgasms. I think, I don't know. I'm not a woman, but that's what I hear. And so I think the reason why NoFap is getting also a lot of popularity is also the porn abstinence. And I think, something my pastor mentioned to me, I had this long conversation with it, and I've struggled with, porn in the past, and, all the things. I was kind of getting his thoughts on it, and kind of more so having a conversation like this with him, around this topic. And, he was just like, how many guys just don't know how to get off without porn? Like, that is inherently odd to them. And I was like, you know what? That's a fascinating point, is like, that is now foreign. And a lot of guys don't do that at all. And porn is just very not, I don't think it's great for, let's just completely take out like the whole like social justice, like sex work conversation. Just, it's a video, that's doing with two adults doing these things. And it definitely can like ramp up in intensity too. Like there can be like soft porn, and then there can be like the whole craziest things, right? And that's an important distinction too. But and also I think like as you, at least for men, as you go, it inherently gets more and more
Mhm.
and more. Um, so I think it's yeah, and I think that's why it's beneficial, because if I think porn is like, Huberman was talking about this. It's like heroin that goes, you shoot directly into your brain through your eyes. And I always like to, I always like to use this example of like a 10-year-old boy can access hotter, more attractive, and like 10,000 times more women. That's a very high number. This does not say hundreds of times more women in one afternoon via his phone, all naked, than he would ever see in his entire life back in the day. He lives in, like Johnny lives in this village his whole life. He's only known 500 people, 250 of them are women, 50 of them are probably actually women within his like age group that he would ever actually, when you're young, you're not looking at like 50-year-old women and are like, wow, they're so attractive, right? Like it's like the people within your age group that you're actually finding attractive. And there's not going to be that many that are like absolute dime pieces, and you're certainly not going to see them naked and doing the things that you see them doing. So it's like this very, very foreign thing. And then it's on your phone with like this blue light that's naturally addictive too. And then you get bonded to your phone. So I know I'm going all over the place here, but I think it's very beneficial. I think even if you don't need to do like this, I think there is really a lot of benefit to doing long periods of time, and you should try to do that. I think that is something it's good to do, to be like, yes, I can not jack off an orgasm for 90 days. Like that's an admirable trait that I think many men would agree is admirable, but might lie to themselves and be like, I don't want to do that, because they know that they can't do it. Or at least they think that they can't do it, and they have convinced themselves that they can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, that's a good point. The porn thing, it is a big thing in today's society. I donate money to this one company, Fight the New Drug, and they're an advocate for helping people overcome, that addiction, because it is an addiction. And like you said, like there's different levels of it. And but usually when you start, whether you're male or female, you're only gonna get worse and worse and worse into the things that you want to watch and the things that you're gonna get off on. And so I think that's really good that you brought that up, because and I never thought about it, that's why I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Like going 2 days, I don't think I never thought like, oh, how often do guys do that? And, it's like, and a guy going without 2 days, 2 times one day, and 2 days in a row, like stop for 2 days, like, well, to me as a woman, because I don't think women do that as much as men, because of the biological differences. It's something that men have an urgency and the feeling that they need to do, and um more than women. So, it's crazy for me to hear that, like, oh, go 2 days without it. And I'm like, what? That's nothing.
Yeah,
Like I do that all
exactly.
the
Or
time. Like I do that.
yeah.
Like it's nothing. Like,
Yeah, and it's not again, it's not all guys. And
right.
but I think it's more than I've had a relationship in the past where I kind of talked about these subjects, and then the question was like, oh, well, how do you deal with this? And I shared my own personal experience and like struggles in the past, and she was like, I don't know if I'm like okay with this. And I'm like, you don't should I don't know if I've ever met a guy who like has struggled like with that in the past. And I was like, they're just not telling you then, you know, because odds are they have. Um and it's a lot more than people. And it's a shame, and there's a lot of shame about it. And I think it just takes more conversations around this, and more people just sharing their positive impact that they've had from it, because I think inherently men know that it's a good thing, and then there's support around it too. And I'm in some groups where this is something that comes up often, and we share our own, and it's a little awkward at first, but then you have one conversation around it and you're like, oh, okay, I like these they're guys too, and they feel the same way, like, okay, I can talk about this and be comfortable with them, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. I think that's why it's important, to commune with other men, and to share your problems, because you're when you like you said, like you shared it and you found out they have those same problems too, and it's like, oh, I'm not alone on this. I can
Mhm.
talk about this. It's okay. Nobody's making fun of me for it because they are struggling with the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And that is why I want to talk about this stuff, because people don't talk about it. And it's kind of a foreign thing. And although it's gaining popularity, it's still not like on CNN news or or anything like that. And so,
Yeah. And, honestly, Yeka, just to share, I think a lot of it also is to, like, men's perspective how women will feel about it, because I don't and
mhm.
this is why maybe this is, like, my unconscious, like, coming through here of, like, why I maybe brought up several times that, like, I don't think women understand the grasp it has on guys, because guys can talk about it with other men, but I've heard it come up around women, and I just don't think it's an interesting phenomenon. There's probably there's definitely things that, like, women talk about that, like, guys just don't get, right? Um, and I think it's just a little challenging. That's maybe why it's, like, really taboo, because I know from past, and I'm thinking of actually, like, 2 examples specifically of other men sharing this with me, of, like, bringing it up around women, and I've had my own experience around this, and, like, oh, not getting ridiculed, but, like, being, like, not validated in your experience, and the negative impact that that has had.
Yeah, like kind of like scoffed at, like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I don't have that problem, so why do you have that problem kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it kind of shows, it just in today's society, women want to be 50-50, so they think that men and women are the same. So when the men open up to these women, to women about their problems, it's like, what? Like that's not the same. Like we're supposed to be the same. Like why are you having these problems that I'm not having? And so I think it
Yeah.
just kind of shows like the state of society where they're at today. It's unfortunate, but I think that that is a big sign of that. What so and I remember when you told me this, I'm not like other women or most women. When you told me this, I was so happy for you and your roommates. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, like because I know it is beneficial, even though I don't know too much about it.
Mhm.
And even though I don't know the extent of the problems that men have with it or how often they do it, I know that it has been shown to be beneficial. And it is just releasing your life force. It is just releasing your energy, and that's what it is. It's energy. I think it goes the same for both men and women. If you ask me, I have heard that where it's like, oh, it gives women energy. I think it can give women energy. I think it can also give men energy too. And there's some books and people that I've listened talk about this, and it's just kind of like where your mind goes when you release. Like you have to like focus on it and like either like circulate it back into your body, or if you let it go out into the open, then you're just losing it and you're not going to get it. You're going to feel depleted afterwards.
Yeah.
But like if we go to the Bible, God doesn't want us to have sexual immorality. And there's a lot of verses on this topic. I do want to read this cool Bible verse that I came across. And it's every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. And
Mhm.
so I didn't know that. Like I've started getting closer to God the past couple years, and so I'm still learning a lot in the Bible. And I I just think that it's like how much more powerful is it knowing that verse alongside with the benefits of no fap. It's like it's kind of in the Bible. It doesn't, he doesn't want you to just be releasing your energy and just giving into physical pleasure all the time. And so I really like when things like that intertwine with the Bible, and then like there's scientific facts that this is beneficial for you and that it is healthy for you to take a break every now and then and not let that be a big part of your life. um, and so I do want to ask, like, uh, what were the benefits that you saw when you practiced that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think very simply is, like, time back is a big thing, and, like, mental time and, like, headspace back where you're like, like, this just isn't an option anymore. Um, I think just better sense of self-control, definitely more energy, definitely more vibrancy, definitely more, like, discipline and being able to like put my energy towards other things. I think that's like, it's, it's like this old idea of sexual transmutation. So it's like taking that sexual energy and transmuting it into a different type of energy into different things. And I think that's actually truly what happens. Yeah, that's enough for me.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing too, I wanted to ask, like, did it have any effects on you in regards to the way you look and view women? I know Austin, I know you're with somebody now, but I know Austin is full of beautiful, gorgeous women everywhere you go. And so I wanted to know if there was a difference in the way that you perceive or look at women or the thoughts, that come
Yeah.
across when after you practice that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we live in this it definitely did. I think we live in this interesting time where it's like, let's say I did see this girl and I'm friends with her. And then I'm like, now I have access to like her Instagram and I can see pictures of her and I can do weird things with that. Right. And let's be honest, this is what probably happens. But certainly never done that before. And like, but whereas like back in the day, we wouldn't be able to do that. You kind of see this person and you say hi to her and then that's it. Like it's only in your mind. Right. So it's also like a completely different interaction with like technology and data. And I think if you were to just take the step of, and this is hard, and this is why NoFap, like, I'll answer your question, but I think this is why NoFap like gains a lot of popularity. If you were to just like, instead, like you could still, let's say you get from guys, let's say you get off once a day and you're like, listen, you can still do that, but you can't use your phone at all. You must just like be in a bed by yourself. That would radically change the experience. And you would probably do it less. And that would change it way for the benefit. So I think that's why it's all kind of put into one thing and why it has a ton of benefit from it. Because again, now we have access, even just like a old Playboy magazine, completely different, like nowhere near. Like people are like, oh, this is crazy. Like, yeah, now you have videos and it's not just like one video. It's like as many videos as you can possibly imagine, if not more videos than any other thing ever imaginable. Right? There's more porn videos than like any other topic. So, yeah. And then in terms of like what you specifically asked, yeah, I think it does. I think you learn, and it also depends like what you're looking for. If you're in a relationship, it's different and probably a conversation you should have with your partner. But if you're single, I think it does like ramp down your like base animal instincts of like thinking through things like that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And then it, like you were saying, it gives you more time to do other things, to do more important things or, more valuable things in your life.
Yeah, and Yecca, it's just so I can, because it brings up a point that I'm thinking of. Just for like you said, there was a lot of guys there. Something that I have found that, and I know from other people that works really well, is noticing what your triggers are and when it happens. I think most guys know like when they like to get off and what maybe triggers them to do it. And if they're really, really honest with themselves and they can just take those little triggers and take those out of their life, it actually makes it a lot easier. So that would just be
Yeah.
my advice. And you don't have to be perfect with it, but like, I have like this little checklist of like things I try to do every day, and that's on there. And it's like a win and it's a loss. And just being honest with myself, and that's that.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, like being honest with yourself, it's hard sometimes, but when you're honest with yourself, you're able to evaluate yourself and just do better next time, and sometimes you're not going to do better, and that's okay because you're human and there's no possible way for us to ever be perfect,
Yeah.
but over time you will get better, and you're not going to have as many failures, and and you will grow from it. Like last
Yeah.
week I had a show. Go ahead.
I was just going to say also another really good idea. And this is really, really hard, but I think it's really beneficial. If you can like find someone that's like a confidant, it's an interesting relationship with someone, especially if it's someone that's close. But if you can find someone who's willing to be your confidant and you can kind of tell them anything, and that could be a really, really close friend of yours too, and that's probably better. I think that's very beneficial, and you can just be open about your struggles and things like that. And like, hey man, I'm struggling with this. Like, would you mind if like I brought this conversation up with you, or if like we checked in next week and you brought it up? Like I promise I will be honest with you in my own struggles. But I just want to have a continuing conversation with this. And that's a really good next step too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I am the type of friend that will call you out or question your motives or your actions sometimes, or if I think that, or if you're doing something I don't agree with, or if I'm worried about you doing this one certain thing, like I'm going to check up on you. And so I think it's really important to have people like that in your life, even if it's just for one specific situation. And maybe that other person isn't doing that thing with you, but they're helping you with it, and then they see you benefiting from it, kind of going back to like how the hockey team saw you giving it your all. Like maybe your friend will see you benefiting from this practice that you're trying to do, and they'll eventually want to try it out and be like, oh, you're a totally different person than you were just 2 weeks ago. I want to
Mm-hmm.
try this out, let me see this. So I think that's a really good point. And and cutting out your triggers. Last week, my episode was about toxic habits that people do, and like one of the big things was following people that post half naked pictures. It's a big thing for guys. A lot of women just love to post their bikini pictures and their super tight workout pictures and all this stuff, and then they get mad when they get attention from men. It's like, well, what are you doing, like posting naked pictures of yourself? It's like they're not naked, but they might as well be. And just because you aren't liking those pictures or you aren't commenting on those pictures doesn't mean that looking at those pictures when you scroll through your feed aren't having an effect on your brain, no matter what you think, because
Yeah,
that is
I'd
soft porn.
cut those out. Yeah,
It
seriously.
is
If
soft
you're
porn.
yeah.
And and it's and if for whatever reason you don't want to unfollow them, you can mute that person where it's not in your feed, it's not in your stories, you're not seeing their posts, but you're still friends with them for whatever reason. And like married women post this stuff, and it's so, like I talked about on my show, that husband is supporting simp culture, because whether he knows it or not, he's getting off on other guys getting off on his wife's picture. And so I think that's one thing that's really easy to cut that stuff out of your life, and it's not going to give you like subconscious triggers that you're not aware of. And so for the guys out there that do have people that post stuff like that, it's very easy to cut that out and not look at that stuff, and because then you might go home and do weird stuff, like you said, later on.
You're right. You're not wrong.
So I think those are some really good tips. And so let's see, coming towards the end here, I just wanted to ask if you could let people know what you got going on at the Sapien Center, or any cool, fun other things that you're doing right now that you want to share with everybody.
Yeah. Sapien Center is still thriving. You can find out about sapienscenter.com. The newsletter list is the best place to get on there. I'm actually not working with the Sapien Center anymore. I'm still
Oh,
part of it.
okay.
I'm still
Are
part
you
of the
are you not
culture.
doing posts or anything?
Uh, Posts
Yeah,
like
like on Instagram and stuff?
nope, not
Oh,
me.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a good thing. Kind of moving on from that
Yeah.
part of my life, and that's okay. You'll understand that more than others will, and that's good.
Yes.
And no, I got some really cool things. So, like I said, I'm doing potentially going to start running somebody really cool Twitter account. I'm actually working for this company called Daylight. It's this
Oh,
really cool
yeah.
brand new computer that doesn't have blue light. It is monochromatic, so it protects your dopamine and your dopamine system and your attention system, without like all these bright flashing colors. It doesn't have flicker, so it keeps your eyes nice and healthy. It doesn't have blue light. You can use it at night. It works like a computer. You can watch videos. It runs on an Android system. You can use anything you want, like on my HP, anything I want on there, I can get on here. So I'm going to start doing some really cool stuff with them, doing some like sales and ambassador program, and also maybe running some like expos and events for them. So that's on the line. I'm going to get my podcast back up and running, and I really appreciate you having me on here, because this is fun. And I have this little studio set up, and I really want to start doing more like things like this. I was kind of just talking with my roommate, Jake, about my ideas, and maybe like non-traditional podcast formats. So I'm a non-traditional guy, and so that's what's coming on. I think I'm going to change my podcast name from Evolution and Integration, which is like 10 syllables, to just Evolving Thoughts with Matt Grebosky. I think that's a good thing, because I'm just doing thoughts and they're always evolving, and then it's the same thing, and I like it.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, that's a really good title. Um, would you let people know? Oh, I was really excited when you shared that. What's it called?
Daylight
Computer?
computer.
Daylight computer. Yeah, I saw you post about it. I was like, that is so cool. I'm so glad somebody did that. Like
Yeah,
I didn't know that we needed that. And then I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, thank
I
you.
I think I am I'm really excited to be with them for right now. It's been in the works for like 6+ years, and they just launched 6 weeks ago.
Nice.
I think it has the potential, if the business is run well on the back end, I think it has the potential to really, really disrupt the market. They want to produce monitors, so you could just hook your computer up to something, and now you have a healthy screen to look at all day, and you can still keep your laptop. Um, and then also making phones. So lots of really cool stuff going on with Daylight Computer. Definitely check them out if you're interested. And I know you'll kind of ask me to plug this later, but my Instagram is just my name, at Matt Grebosky, Grebosky. And if you're interested in getting more information, I can give you some more about the Daylight Computer.
Perfect. No, that's exactly what I was going to ask, to let people know where they can find you and follow you. I will most likely reach out to get some information on that Daylight computer, because
Cool.
working from home, I'm staring at the screen all day and I don't want to be wearing my blue light blockers all
Yeah,
day.
Yecca, it makes a very, very big difference, and you can use it outside. It
I
uses
saw
EM
that. I know, and
technology.
that's what really intrigued me about it, because I like to sit outside, but my computer gets hot, and and I
Yeah,
want to be in the sun, but I
yep.
can't. It's just like a whole thing.
Yeah, it reflects the light. So like right now, your computer has to battle the sun to who is brighter, and it's not going to win
Right.
that battle. And then it heats up because it's working so hard. But ours uses reflective technology, so it just bounces the light off. It doesn't have to work hard, and it doesn't have a backlight, so it saves energy. It doesn't ramp up energy, when it gets hot out and bright out, and then you're not exposing yourself. And what's cool is, because it's reflecting the light, you're getting sunlight in your eyes, right?
Mm.
So it's like some
Hmm.
weird esoteric wisdom around it. Like it's not just that the screen is healthier, but you're actually getting sunlight in your eyes now, right? And it's actual sunlight. It's not light. Like this thing produces really good natural spectrums of light,
Mm.
but that's not what happens whenever when you're using it outside. So it's cool.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so cool, because that's kind of one of the conflicts I have when I'm taking my computer to go outside to get sunlight, but I'm still staring at the computer. So I'm like, do I bring my blue light blockers or do I not? Like, I don't usually, because I want to get all the sun, even if there's some blue light. But it's like
Yeah.
kind of a conflict that I have. And
Yeah.
so it seems like that's wouldn't even be an issue with this daylight computer. So that's really cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You guys, be sure to check him out and you're mostly on Instagram.
Yeah, that's the best place. I'm actually getting on Twitter, so I'm gonna start tweeting a little more,
Okay.
getting my thoughts out on there. Not anything that crazy, but those would be the two best places. I mean, I'm always down for Twitter. Like Twitter is where I'm just gonna be like getting scrappy and doing cool stuff. So
Awesome. Yeah. So check him out at Matt Grebosky. I just want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Wise Wolf and Wolfpack. Wolfpack. The easiest way to stack gold and silver is to just go straight to my link, yecca.gold. And if you want to place a custom or a large order or convert your IRA, you can give us a call, or you can text me directly at 888-770-1776, and we'll get you set up over there. Thank you, everybody. I love y'all, and have a blessed weekend.